first part of our program, we spoke about Columbus, the man, his education, the place of birth, historical background, the difficulties he had in finding people to believe in his idea that you could go east by going west. And in this program, we will try to show the writing. We'll show him as the writer. Columbus was a prolific writer. Most of his work were never published, and some are even lost. But he wrote 4 logs of all his travels, and today we will be reading from his log of the first voyage. With me is again Mr. Adolfo Caso, who is an educator, a professor of Italian at Harvard University. He's an author of several books, one of which is this one we are talking about today, To America and Around the World. And he was also a scholar, and he still is a scholar. But we are now trying to read about his work, and we hope to read it properly so that people may understand that Columbus was not a monster or a criminal, but rather a gentleman who respected every human aspect or human dignity.
I certainly would agree,
again.
but if I may make one correction,
Yeah.
I've never been a Harvard professor, although I did teach there at one time.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
You did teach.
We should probably start by, I'd like to make a statement rather, and say that, read it from the flap of the book, to show the importance of Columbus. And this has to do also with Ferdinand Magellan. My statement is simply this: the voyages of exploration and of discovery have unequivocally changed and impacted on the Western world like no other event except for the advent of Jesus Christ. Now that is an important statement to make, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a true statement, true observation, and now we will see how this voyage by Columbus, because he did something that was conscious. It was not by accident. Whatever he did consciously, which makes him as part of the spirit of the Renaissance, because the Renaissance meant that whatever they did because they were aware of the things they were doing. And Columbus enters into the spirit of the Renaissance for the simple fact that he was a man aware of his deeds and of his actions. And now we will see just what kind of a person that he is.
Of course, you were reading from the book that is now being seen, which is To America and Around the World. Now, this book, you wrote an essay introducing the 2 logs.
Yes.
One from Columbus himself, and the other log was for Magellan.
That's correct.
Who wrote the Magellan's log?
Well, the Magellan log was written by Pigafetta, Antonio Pigafetta from Vicenza, Italy. Just a word or two about that one. As you know, Spain was really very lucky because first it engaged Columbus to do the first trip to the New World. But then it also engaged a Portuguese by the name of Ferdinand Magellan to take the trip around the world. And Spain, by the way, paid for it.
For the voyage.
For the voyage. Except that Magellan was lucky enough to have this Venetian gentleman, this gentleman from Vicenza, to be on board. He was a learned person, an adventurer, and he is the one who kept the daily logs of the trip around the world.
But isn't it true that Magellan never really made it around the world? He was unfortunately killed.
He did not. He was killed in the east, I believe, in the Philippines or so.
So how come we are giving him the credit for going around the world? It's like a race. If you don't make it, you lose it. He did not make it, and he did not lose it.
Well, we give him credit because he was the one who had the idea for it, and even though he didn't complete it, it was his idea that was fulfilled.
So this Mr. Pigafetta who wrote, he's a completely unknown.
He is unknown except for our books here.
Okay.
But however, I have to say that he wrote the logs in Italian.
Uh-huh.
And these logs have been translated from the Italian into Spanish, into Portuguese, and all the other languages.
How well known is Christopher Columbus' log at least of the first voyage. Is it studied by the children here in America?
Unfortunately, because we are critics of literature and so on, we as critics almost never teach the original text, the text of the original authors. It truly is too bad. But I'm trying to change that a little bit, and in my works, I always like to present the text as was written by the author, so that you, as the reader, you'll make your own decision as to the worthiness of that particular piece.
So, in fact, this book should be read by every student, or many more than that they do today. This is a historical event, and it's beautifully written and inspiring.
Well, thank you for that. The book is now in its second printing. We first printed in hardback, and now it is available in paperback.
Where can the reader buy this book? Where can they find it?
Well, I mentioned, of course, Amazon before, and I should also mention that it's also available through your site, and it is available also from Brandon Publishing Company at www.brandon.com.
We recommend the listeners to check with their public libraries and try to obtain the issue or the book from the library first, and then look around to see. But you definitely should read it because it's an interesting and inspiring book. So what do we plan to do here today? We want to show that Columbus, Columbo was not a slave trader, was not so mean to the Indians. He did not kill Indians as they portray, or he was not the figure of greed, as they said, excess greed. Maybe what do you think we should do?
Well, Columbus, first of all, was an adventurer, but he was an adventurer in the positive style. He wanted to accomplish things. He had to have results. And so we have to look at him from that point of view. There have been many charges wherein he is responsible for all the evils of the world, mind you. But these are charges from people who, outside of being pathetic, they simply are ignorant. And the reason why they're ignorant is because they're not really reading the original text. And so this evening we're going to try to attempt to read some parts of it so that the viewers at this time, rather than the readers, can judge for themselves what kind of a man this is. And I think we could start really with the...
Only selective sections. We cannot start from the very, very beginning. But
no,
anyway.
No, not all of it. I think with what happened on the 11th of October, because that is the day that is important for all of us.
Well, Columbus begins to describe the moment he leaves port, right? Day by day in a log, very precisely.
And so every day we have a description and a relation of what happened on that day, not only on ship, what happened with the personnel on ship, everything, including describing the oceans and as well as the clouds and the sun and the directions of the wind, all of that. But we should say what happened when they first saw land. This is significant.
That was on the 11th.
Yes. So they shortened sail and lay by under the mainsail without bonnets. The vessels were hove to, waiting for daylight, and on Friday they arrived at a small island of the Lucayos, called in the language of the Indians, Guanahani. Presently they saw naked people. The admiral went on shore in the armed boat, and Martin Alonso Pinzon and Vicente Yanes, his brother, who was the captain of the Nina. The admiral took the royal standard, and the captains went with 2 banners of the Green Cross, which the admiral took in all the ships as a sign, with the F and Y and a crown over each letter, one on one side of the cross and the other on the other. Having landed, they saw trees very green and much water and fruits of diverse kind. And this is now important. The admiral called to the 2 captains and to the others who leaped on shore, and to Rodrigo Escovedo, secretary of the whole fleet, and to Sanchez of Segovia, and said that they should bear faithful testimony that he, in presence of all, had taken, as he now took, possession of the said island for the King and Queen of Spain, his lords making the declarations that are required and is more largely set forth in the testimonies which were then made in writing. So this right away sets forth what's happening here, is that whatever he's going to do, he's going to do it in the presence of the representatives of the crown, and that he's not going to do anything that is not worthy.
Now, the banners which says F and Y actually stands for Ferdinand
Yes.
and Isabella.
Yes.
Okay, and what if...
Well, then we can continue, but now I must make one small explanation, and it is that the logs were written by Columbus, but much of the original log has gone lost. So Las Casas is the one who is the historian and really the one who knows most about Columbus, and he has recreated the logs.
As far as I know, is that he actually had the one copy before the copy was lost.
Yes, and what he did
therefore
is
he transcribed it.
that's right, but he had also the original writing of Columbus, and so Las Casas says, this is in the words of the admiral, and then this is the words that I'm saying that the admiral said.
Now, the logs, the original was written for Isabella.
Yes,
Did she receive the logs?
yes,
Uh-huh. And then, as far as I know, is that Isabella had one copy made of that book and given to Columbus himself. So Columbus had a copy of the original.
yes, from what I know.
And what happened to the copy?
They either were lost or were destroyed or sold privately. We do not know what happened to them. We do not have much of the writings of Columbus, of the original writings.
But Las Casas, apparently, I read somewhere that he must have had a copy before the copy was lost.
Yes.
That he must have a copy because he wrote about Columbus and
Yes.
Americas at the time.
And one of these days,
Was a good
perhaps
historian.
500 years from now, we'll find the original copy.
Okay.
Let me just say now, for instance, and I, he says, that is I, Columbus, he says, that is Las Casas says, that we might form great friendship, for I knew that they were a people who could be more easily freed and converted to our holy faith by love than by force. Gave to some of them red caps and glass beads to put around their necks, and many other things of little value, which gave them great pleasure, and made them so much our friends that it was a marvel to see. So this is the first impression of these Europeans, but through the eyes of Columbus, that these people were a marvel to see.
And one of the first words is so that we may make friends, so we may have
Absolutely.
good friendship. So he
Absolutely.
wants to make friends with the new natives.
They afterwards came to the ship's boat where we were, swimming and bringing us parrots, cotton threads in skeins, darts, and many other things. And we exchanged them for other things that we gave them, such as glass beads and small bells. In time they took all and gave what they had with good will. It appeared to me to be a race of people very poor in everything. They go as naked as when their mothers bore them, and so do the women, although I did not see more than one girl. All I saw were youths, none more than 30 years of age. They are very well made, with very handsome bodies and very good countenances.
So it's already positive, the description of these people.
The first
he saw.
impact really describes what those people were like.
He also gave orders to the mariners not to touch anything or not to take without having an exchange.
He certainly did. He gave orders to treat these people as nice people, not to touch them.
Well, let's
So
hear
let me
what he
read a
has to
little
say,
bit more. Now he's describing them, and I'd like to make that description because it is kind of it's nice.
Yeah.
This is how detailed he was. Their hair is short and coarse, almost like the hairs of a horse's tail. They wear the hairs brought down to the eyebrows, except a few locks behind, which they wear long and never cut. They paint themselves black, and they are the color of Canarians, neither black nor white. Some paint themselves white, others red, and others of what color they find. Some others only on the nose. They neither carry nor know anything of arms. For I showed them swords, and they took them by the blade and cut themselves through ignorance. So these people were really brand new people. I mean,
And he
people that had
describes
not
the
seen
color,
anything.
the colors as the Canaries, meaning the Canary Islands.
Well, the Canaries of the Canary birds.
Oh, Canary
No,
Islands,
no,
of the people
no.
who lived in Canary Islands?
No.
Ah.
They have no iron, their darts being wands without iron, some of them having a fish tooth at the end, and others being pointed in various ways. They are all of fair stature and size, and good faces, and well made.
So still, again, positive image.
Always
of,
positive. In the first voyage, in which we can say that Columbus was in charge, although he was never in charge, but at least he was the figurehead, he was the one, he was the captain. Never did he touch anyone in the wrong way. There was no one killed. The man was truly a gentle person and treated everyone with
Some of the
regard.
people who rebelled on the trip, he also forgave them.
Absolutely, they boycotted him. They wanted to turn back, and they did want to turn back. And they were about to kill him, actually.
Let's him talk. Let him.
I saw some with marks of wounds on their bodies, and I made sign to ask what it was. And they gave me to understand that people from other adjacent islands came with the intention of seizing them, and that they defended themselves. So right away,
seizing them. That means they seize them, become
it
probably.
shows that there was already warfare amongst the Indian tribes themselves. I believed and still believe that they came here from the mainland to take them prisoners. They should be good servants and intelligent, for I observed that they quickly took in what said to them. And I believe that they would easily be made Christians, as it appeared to me that they had no religion. I, our Lord, being pleased, will take hence at the time of my departure 6 natives for your highness, and that they may learn to speak. I saw no beast of any kind except parrots on this
Now,
island.
he takes 6, obviously it's probably by force or by fiat. He gives an order and they seize 6 people. Obviously, he says, I'll bring them to you so that they may learn to speak, obviously Spanish, and maybe some kind of civilization. But is that an accusation that can be said that Columbus seized slaves and made these people slaves, or?
Certainly not. The reason for that was an obvious and practical one. He had to show the Europeans the kinds of people that were here. And obviously these people did not speak Spanish or any other language. It was a way of transacting or making things easy for the two worlds to really
Let's go
meet.
on because the time is running.
Well, here's another paragraph that is good. And he says, however, because he was after gold, I was attentive and took trouble to ascertain if there was gold. Meaning that he found very little gold, but if there was not enough gold, he believed that gold would be in Chipanga, which would be the mainland.
Why is he looking for gold? Because that's another accusation, greed.
Well, I don't know about greed. Certainly he was involved with commerce, and what do you do when you are involved with commerce? You make transactions, and how do you get this? You get gold, so that with that you
His
do
trip
other
had
things.
to be paid back. As we remember, he
Certainly.
had loans in order to do for the
Certainly.
trip. So
I mean, money was
he's-
always important. You cannot do without it.
let's go on.
Okay, here also is found the gold that the people wear fastened in their noses. But in order not to lose time, I intend to go and see if I can find the island of Chipango. Now, as it is night, all the natives have gone ashore with their canoes.
I didn't think this is important. Even though he sees gold, he says, I have to go to Chipango. Forget about the gold that it's here. So his main object is to go to where he's supposed to go and not necessarily the gold.
That's right. Because remember that he was not aware that this was a new land, a new
not
landmass.
at
He
this
thought
point.
this was still part of Chipango, of the mainland of China.
Okay, let's go to something.
I'd like to read just another paragraph, and this is of the 15th of October now. The other men who had fled might do us some harm because we had carried them off. And for that reason, I order this man to be set free and give him the above things, that he might think well of us. Otherwise, when your highness again send an expedition, they might not be friendly. In other words, he's taking pain to make sure that the Indians, the natives, are friendly and that nothing happens to them, because he's expecting Spain to send other people to come forward.
And highness means the queen of
The king and queen of
Spain.
Spain, that's right.
We have only time for one or two more.
One or two more, okay? And the one that I like to read has to do with again, this is about the first woman that he really had contact with. At last they caught a woman, for I had ordered that some should be caught, that they might be treated well and made to lose their fear. This would be a useful event, for it could scarcely be otherwise, considering the beauty of the country. So they took the woman, who was very young and beautiful, to the ship, where she talked to the Indians on board, for they all speak the same language. The admiral caused her to be dressed and gave her glass beads, hawk's bells, and breast ornaments. Then he sent her back to the shore very courteously, according to his custom. He sent 3 of the crew with her and 3 of the Indians he had on board, that they might open communications with the people.
So they catch somebody just to show that they will be treated well,
Yes.
and he allowed the girl to speak with
That's right.
those Indians who were already on board, that
And that
they were in
worked.
friendly relations.
And that worked, because when this young woman went on board and the other people saw that she was well taken care of, she had gifts and ornaments and dressed, they all believed that these Christians...
Is there any place here where he tells us that he had to kill somebody? Did he kill anybody?
He did not kill anyone. However, when he went to the Caribbees, he was attacked by a group of Indians, and the Spaniards shot back. And they did wound 2 Indians.
What did he know about the Caribs?
What he knew was what he had been told, that they were cannibals, and that they were warlike, and that they would attack and end attacked at will.
In fact, the people who lived in San Salvador at this point were afraid that these people were coming to seize them, and
Yes.
they were cannibals, meaning they ate flesh,
That's
human
correct.
flesh, I see.
Yeah, and that was quite a fact. So there was nothing at all to be hidden.
Of course, he was the admiral of the whole ship, so he was responsible for all the men. And
Yes.
as a general, and you as a military man, you know, when there is something that must be done, right?
An order is an
But-
order.
Yeah.
Shall we read just
Yeah.
one more paragraph? The village consisted of 1,000 houses with over 3,000 inhabitants. The Indian whom the Christians had brought with them ran after the fugitives, saying that they should have no fear, for the Christians did not come from Cariba,
Cariba means the Caribs, the flesh-eating people.
but were from heaven, and that they gave many beautiful things to all the people they met.
Why does it say we are from heaven?
Because when the Indians first saw these Europeans in their armor and the ships and all, my goodness, can you imagine the vision
They
of that?
said you must come from heaven.
Absolutely. I mean, that had never happened before. This
So
is
that's
the
what
first
he's doing
encounter
now, because he learned that's the
of
way to
the East.
communicate with the new Indians.
I mean, can you imagine a thing like that? Out of nowhere, these people now see these ships with sails and people. They were so impressed with what he said that upwards of 2,000 came close to the Christians, putting their hands on their heads, which was a sign of great reverence and friendship, and they were all trembling until they were reassured. The Christians related that as soon as the natives had cast off their fear, they all went to the houses, and each one brought what he had to eat, consisting of yams. For the first time we see yams, which are roots like large radishes, which they sow and cultivate in all their lands, and is their staple food. They make bread of it and roast it, and then so on and so forth. And it talks about chestnuts and other things.
And what is the next?
The next passage that I'd like to read is, this one also has to do with the king and how Columbus treated their
The
kings.
native king.
That's right. Presently, more than 500 natives with their king came to the shore opposite the ships, which were anchored very close to the land. Presently, one by one, Then many by many came to the ship without bringing anything with them, except that some had a few grains of very fine gold in their ears and noses, which they readily gave us. The admiral ordered them all to be well treated, and he says, for they are the best people in the world, and the gentlest. And above all, I entertain the hope in our Lord that your Highness will make them Christians, and that they will be all your subjects, for as yours I hold them.
This now hold us the holiness to make them Christians. Actually, it's what the Catholics used to do, convert people. In
Yes.
fact, that's what happened in America. Once
Yes.
more people came in, priests and monks, and came to Christianize
They became
people
Catholics.
to Catholics.
Yeah.
Okay. You still have another more?
Well, we have a couple of more. I'd like to go to one page where we actually see the first conflict between the Indians, the natives, and the Spaniards.
What date was that?
And that was on the 13th of January. Okay? And
1 minute we have, so.
1 minute. So I'll read only this. The admiral regretted the affair for one reason and was pleased for another. They would fear for the Christians, and they were no doubt all conditioned people, probably Caribs, who eat men. But the admiral felt alarm lest they should do some harm to the 39 men left in the fortress at the town of the Natividad in the event of their coming here on board. So this is the last time that he had a conflict with the Indians, the first and last time. And what he feared was that they were going to go back and kill the men that he had left in the first settlement of the New World, and that was Navidad.
And in fact, that's what happened. When he came back on the second voyage, he went to to Navidad, and he found everybody slain. And of course, the problems began thereafter.
That is right.
Oh, well, I wish we had more time to read a little more of Columbus. We do hope that you enjoy the reading, and you can do the reading yourself. You go to the library and find out. This is a historic book, a marvelous reading. And goodbye now. We hope to see you next time with a new author. Thank you.